Good morning. Today we're dealing with passive mind. And I know that some of you perhaps will sort of question this and argue that a passive mind is a form of healing and deliverance, because when the mind is passive, it does not do according to what God wants. Look at 2 Corinthians chapter 10. We're going to look at the Shunammite woman this morning. But the title, before I begin, let me read this. For though we walk in the flesh, what do you mean? For though we live, we work, we go to the bank, we go to groceries, we do life. We do not war according to the flesh. So there's a difference. That the war, in order to be effective, it has to be in the spirit. So there's a difference between warfare that is physical, and warfare that is spiritual. And it says in verse 4, 2 Corinthians 10, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. So it's carnal in a sense that it's not God, it's not world provided. Because what passivity is, a mind is not directed by its owner. And so the idea here for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, meaning it's not physically, worldly, psychologically, UGA, degrees, college, education. It's not used. It's not something that the world teaches me. It's something that God does through me to a situation that I'm in. And that situation that comes from the Lord to do what God wants you to do, it's not something that you can handle it. You know, I talked to an interesting young man in the office yesterday. He came by and we had a little chat. And he said, Rick, I cannot explain to you what I do for a living. But I can see things that nobody sees it in a certain company. I look at how the company operates, and right off I begin to have visions of what God can do in that company. It's really interesting. And so the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. You can't fight the devil with a PhD. You can't fight the devil with a college degree, with philosophy. But it says mighty through God. Mighty through God. What do you mean by that? Mighty through God. So let me ask the panel that's sitting down here. How about Noel? What do you mean mighty through God?
He's our strength. We can't do it without him.
Now, what do you mean, no, Aliyah, through? You're not going to get in, DJ? Huh?
You said mighty through God?
Yeah.
That he's, just like Noah said, he is our source of strength.
Okay. The word through signifies that it has to come, the weapon of our warfare, what we're battling with, has to go through. In other words, God has to be in charge. God has to get it done. God has to call into being. God has to deliver. God has to do it. It's all His. Through means what it is, coming through to what it is and what's going to be. Through means ownership. God ownership. He owns the process. Through God means He owns the process. And then what He does, He says, the way He does it, it's pulling down strongholds. The way God does the healing is that He pulling down. Now, what do you mean by pulling down? Anything that exalts above the knowledge of God is a form of witchcraft. Anything that rises above the knowledge of God is a form of witchcraft. And so it becomes important in your life. A thought, listen to me, a thought that puts you to your knees. A thought that controls your physical, mental mind. A thought that causes you to be totally, completely able to handle the kingdom of God, to handle the kingdom of darkness. It has to go through God. Now the form here is just, what do you mean? And so Paul explains that casting down imaginations, the strongholds he's talking about is mind, philosophic, stronghold, thoughts that imagine that which it is when in fact, now think about it. Imagination is creating a scenario that is not of God, is not through God, but tries to control you, manipulate you, and cause you to listen. And then he says, every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of God. In other words, anything. What is a high thing, DJ? What do you consider to be a high thing?
Just your thoughts. A high thing could be a stronghold, a principality, anything that exalts itself above God.
Okay, now I want to get an example. What is a high thing, Noel? What is a high thing? Give me an example.
Pride.
Yes, now we got to it. In other words, I'm important, I know how to do it, I'm able, and I will establish it, and I will do it. That's high. And pride comes before the fall. It's a very difficult thing to be a preacher doing the kingdom work of God, especially dealing with situations that are deeply, deeply, deeply holy and righteous, and not get a big head. Pride, anger, retaliation, bitterness, murder, acridity, acidity, wormwood, gall, poison. All of that is something that the devil uses, creates the imagination, lifts up above the knowledge of God, and begin to do his work to cause you to be what he wants you to be instead of what God wants you to be. Right? Okay, Aliyah. Give me something besides pride, Aliyah, as an imagination or stronghold.
Greediness.
Huh?
Greediness or selfishness.
Greediness is a big time thing. You know, it's kind of interesting how I learned that. But I want to show you what DJ and Noel has done. We blessed them and they blessed us. You know, both of them found out there's a church somewhere down there in Danielsville. They will feed the dinner, right? For the that's going to take 8-10 people working in the kitchen, wouldn't it? And without me knowing, without me telling, without me asking, without me informing, I found out that they are going to provide the food to take care of the 100 men coming to this conference. So that's just a sign of, what do you call that, Aliyah?
Kindness.
Goodness, gentleness. You see, that brings down strongholds way down.
That's an act.
You begin to do to others. Listen, I've been feeding people in Brazil for a period of 60 years to the tune of $10,000 a month.
That's an active mind.
It's an active mind. And I finally got a little salary coming in from RBM, but I haven't had no salary for the last 50 years. I could have been wealthy, have some money, and I'm broke most of the time. And so it's a form that becomes you. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God. When God comes in, he brings imaginations down and high things into captivity. And then he says, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Which is a hard thing to do. Oh God, it's the most difficult thing I ever done, is to control your mind. So let's take a look. Go to 2 Kings for a minute. By the way, we're out of here real quick, okay? I know y'all going to have to work downstairs. So let's go to 2 Kings. You get it?
Which chapter?
I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's chapter 4. Now, I'll read it, and I'd like for you to comment, but take a look a little bit, okay? Y'all doing okay this morning?
Yeah.
You doing good? Okay, good. Here you go. And it fell on that day that Elijah passed by Shunem, where a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. Passive, active. She constrained him. And so it was, as often as he passed by, that he turned into tired to eat bread. She gave him bread, and the next thing is he came back for more. And he said unto her husband, Behold, I perceive that this man is a holy man of God. So she saw in Elijah holiness. Now that's a gift. That's active. It's not passive. So her mind is controlled by God to where she's looking for something out there that is better for her life. She saw him and felt it. Now that is a gift. Okay? That is a gift. Okay? Let us make a little chamber for him. So he prepared a little room for him. And of course, the relationship started with bread. Before too long, he gets a bed. So one day, Elisha passed by, and he went in and took a nap. And Gehazi came in and called a Shunammite woman and asked her, and she came and stood before him. She stood before. She didn't get in the room. She just stood before him because she had previous knowledge that was a man of God. So let's read verse 12 all the way to verse 16 one more time. And I'll begin with DJ. Would you, DJ? Go ahead and read verse 12.
Verse 12. He said to his servant Gehazi, Call the Shunammite. So he called her, and she stood before him.
Now, what was the reason, DJ, that he called her?
Well, he ends up asking how he can bless her. So
Right. Look. Here's the active mind. Okay. He passes by, gets bread. He comes by, and she builds a room for him. And do you understand? In other words, I give a tithe to the Lord. I bless the people in Brazil. I do something I never done before. I engage myself into others' needs. I begin to get involved. And by the way, when you get involved with people, I want you to know that sheep bite. I mean, people are mean. They can be mean to you. So when you go into being with people, as I have, oh my God, oh my Lord, that creates all kinds of problems. But what I'm saying to you is that he responds to her with authority. He called the Shunammite. He said to Gehazi, his servant, call her. And she comes and stood in front of him. Now tell me this. If it was her house, why didn't she come in and sit down? Noel? Why didn't she come in and sit down and talk to the prophet? It's her house. It's her home. Aliyah. Come on.
Because she respected the prophet.
That's right. She sensed inside of him there was something about that man. Listen, it's a wonderful thing. I have blessed thousands of people. But recognition from much of them I don't have. I told yesterday one of our members of our church, of our ministry, from Valdosta, Georgia, that prophetic ministry is accepted but not rewarded. People don't give a hoot to who you are after they get what they want. It's really interesting. Okay, DJ, verse 13.
Elisha said to him, Tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army?
Now, the answer to this Shunammite woman is one of the things that impressed me the most. Noel, what is her answer?
She answered, I dwell among my own people.
In other words, they know who I am. I have a testimony of who I am. I don't need anything. I just want you to know that I'm righteous before God. People know me for who I am, and there's nothing else I can say. In other words, I'm not going to tell you that I need this, that I want this, that I want that. Ask them. I bless them. In other words, I blessed them before they even thought they could get blessed by me. Did you see? You see a personality there, Aliyah?
Yeah, I see her personality. It's very selfless, and she wants to serve others.
That's right. So, in other words, when you serve God, the first thing that I hear from some people is what I can get from me. What can I get from me? Because if you give me something, then I'll get what I want, and I came to get something. A lot of people come to RBM to get something. Now, look at verse 14, Noel. DJ 14, you're the reader.
What can be done for her? Elisha asked. Gehazi said, she has no son, and her husband is old.
The information about this proves that Gehazi knew this woman previously. The interesting thing is that, now listen to this, that was not mentioned or informed to the prophet. You see, one of the jobs of people who are close to people with prophetic information is not to give information, because God reveals the information when the time comes. You know, we have an application form in our ministry. It comes in the office and it's downstairs, and there are 30 application forms with all kinds of information. I have never read an application form before a trip. Now and then, I hear there's somebody with a serious physical ailment. I have to go over there. Why don't I go into and read the application form, Aliyah?
I'm not sure. Is it because you don't want to have a preconceived notion?
Yes. In other words, the prophetic does not operate on information that comes in from exterior motives. It has to be delivered by the Lord. And so, DJ, look at this guy. Look at this prophet. He did not, in no shape or form, knew that the great woman of Shunammite woman had an old husband, and she had no son. And Gehazi kept that from the prophet for quite a while, but then it comes a time when it has to come out. And so, what is verse 15 says, DJ?
Then Elisha said, call her. So he called her, and she stood in the doorway.
So in a period between verse 14 and verse 15, when she heard in other words, the impossible is always done for the people of God. The impossible is always done for the people of God. I have never met someone that has come to RBM or here or Brazil who didn't get their blessing. You might say it's all done. There's no reason to mention anymore. And I want to tell you, you got to change your attitude on this, because God works in the impossible. It's His nature. It's His nature to deal with the impossible. And so, what is verse 16, DJ?
About this time.
Now look at verse 15. He called her. What?
So he called her, and she stood in the doorway.
Right. Again, one more time. It happens on verse 12 and verse 15. There's something about the Shunammite woman that reveals to us that to be in the presence of God, it takes honor, respect, and dignity. It's a very difficult thing to bring a congregation into a posture that pleases God, because they come in with different requests, different needs, different pain, different hurts. And most of the people that are going to Muriaé out of the 1,500 is going to be every single service. It'll be packed to the brim. They're there to check me out. They're there to somehow get something. You understand? It's very difficult to be in the midst of people who want to get something. And you have to separate yourself from them and throw out the bread and run to the other way. Throw out the bread and run. There are people that are church members that all they need is to go to heaven. But they still have questions about going to heaven or not. They give no tithe. They're not involved. They don't talk church. They're just people who come in and get away as soon as it's over, jump into the car and come back next Sunday. And they stay on that mode for 10, 15 years. And so, she stood because she knew there was something about this man that caught her attention. Okay, next, DJ, verse 16.
About this time next year, Elisha said, "You will hold a son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Please, man of God, don't mislead your servant."
Is that passive or active?
For her, it would be passive.
For her, it would be passive. She denied it. She simply began to realize that this man knows more than I know. Let's take a look. And he said this. Now, he's talking about the clock. What is a season, Noel? Give me a season of seasons of the year.
There's fall, winter, spring, and summer.
And so she is saying that in this season, about this season, right now, meaning that in this season, she'll get pregnant. You know, I stop a little bit and I start to talk about the old men because people that are old are totally disregarded as effective, able to do anything. When you're old, you know, and I hate to tell you this, it's a lie of the devil to point to old people and tell them they're not able. Don't you tell me I can't do it.
Don't say anything to me.
Don't say. So what he's saying is, this season, I mean next week, you're going to get pregnant. According to the time of life. What is that, Noel? Aliyah? What is according to the time of life?
Are you referring to like this season of next year?
About the time of life, how long it takes to have a baby, Aliyah?
9 months.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The time of life. That's it. And she answered, "No, no, my Lord, you men of God, do not lie unto your handmaid." Do not lie. She's exposed herself. Her passivity just came in. DJ, why do people sort of have a spirit of unbelief that somehow creeps over them now and then?
Well, I think sometimes it's like for her, she knows the facts. She knows that she's old. She knows that her husband's old. Their body's not working like they used to. So she's just looking at the facts and not having revelation of the truth.
Right. The facts are simply he is old, meaning that the seed that comes from him, it's almost impossible. What I'm saying to you is that God provides when there is impossibility. God provides when there is impossible, when nothing is possible. You know, I know a young man here in Athens who for a period of a whole year, as the baby is about to be born, they lived without a salary for a year to 2 years until finally the Lord came in and began to supply and began to provide and began to bless them, and everything has changed. So what is the answer, DJ, on verse 17?
But the woman became pregnant, and the next...
Okay, now, the woman became pregnant. When did the woman become pregnant? Aliyah?
She became pregnant when Elisha called it.
Exactly. When she mentioned her husband being unable, Elijah says, this season, during this season, right now. Now, is that important, Noel?
Yes, that is important.
Why?
Because I think, I don't know how to explain it.
Romans 4:17, what it says? Calling things that be not as though they were. What do you mean by that, DJ?
Just speaking things into existence, having faith to speak things.
Yes, the prophet simply just spoke very clearly that this season is in period, a season. Okay, how many months are in a season, Aliyah?
12.
Huh?
12.
How many months on the summer?
4.
Yeah. 12 divided by 4 is how much?
3.
There's 4 seasons though.
Oh.
So it'd be 3 months.
So
3 months. June, July, and August is called the summer.
You knew that.
She was impregnated as soon as the prophet of God called into being. See, with the Lord, things don't take a long time. With the Lord, it's not a question of time. The devil operates in time and space. God operates in the now, in the moment. And you have to live in the moment to know that in the moment that you live, He will call things together and He will say what He wants to say. Listen, I have a grandson called Noah. About last month or last 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Mike Reeder that the church in Atlanta would help us about the mission in Brazil. At 6 o'clock, Noah walks in. At 5:45, Mike Reeder called me and gave me the news. At 15 minutes later, a young man, my grandson, walked in and said, Dad, Papa, do not sell the building. What he was saying, he was prophesying in the now. A question of 15 minutes. So you're probably wondering here how long it took for her to get pregnant. If God is in it, very quick. It's not something that takes 6 months, a year and a half. If you are in the mode of serving the Lord and under the wipe of the enemy, and Satan got you thinking this way, everything for you is a 2 to 3 months ordeal. But if you're serving the Lord in His time, it's in the now. It's now. Now. Now, DJ, tell me something, DJ. When have you been thinking that sometimes you're in the slow pole?
Ask the question again.
When sometimes you feel like you're caught by the clock?
I have no idea. What do you think, Andy?
I think you've got the answer. You just don't know what it is yet.
Exactly.
In other words, when you look, there's something on my computer today about a ticket from Georgia to be paid. I have seen that ticket in my email, and it has been coming to the ministry. But because we're so busy, Aliyah is beginning to get hold of the office. DJ is helping us to get that done. And Noel is doing the finances. And Blake is teaching. And Andy is working hard on with Jennifer and myself on recording the teachings and the discipling. We are discipling our people. It takes time. I've seen that email several times, Aliyah. But they're telling me they're going to take my driver's license if I don't pay it.
That's a scam.
I don't know who it is, but I'm going to pass on to you. So you take a look at that, because if it's not a scam, then I'm going to lose my driver's license. Okay? Time. The devil operates in this time. He shoots at you, and then he causes you to suffer. and causes you to cry. It causes you to die. It causes you to have spiritual diarrhea. And so the woman conceived simply means right on it. Say with me, God, deal with me this way, that I will not be in the devil's clock, but I will be in the clock of the Lord. And he says, and bore a son at that season. She bore a son in that season. Now, I don't know about you, because at the time of life is 9 months. But he's pointing to a season. So 9 months, let's take a look. January, February, and March is one season. April, May, and June, another season. July, wait a minute. January, February, and March, one season. Go ahead and count, Aliyah. January, February, and March, first season. Second season.
January, February, March, one season.
April.
May, June is one season. July, August, September is another season. And then October, November, and December is
another season. In the season he's saying is according to the time of life, 9 months. I want you to learn this, okay? Because as you begin to develop and grow, the Lord showed me priorities. Let me tell you what the Lord showed me this morning. He showed me that this ministry that we're doing right here is not getting the attention that it deserves, because we could have been ministering to thousands of people, but we're not doing it. In other words, we're teaching here, but God is not getting the effect and so Google Analytics is not even considered to be an effective tool to find out who we are and what we are. We don't deal with it. So look, he bore a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. The Lord bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.